Dragons are quite monstrous, gargantuous, intimidating creatures, and they have a little bit of detail in the Bible. If you were to read the last book of the Bible named Revelations, and you were to go to chapter 12, verse 3, it says, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. It did cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born." The woman in this is kind of some like celestial figure, clothed in the sun, standing on the moon in childbirth. And this child in the picture is a representation of Jesus. So as we just read here, dragons are depicted as chaotic. And since we are playing Elden Ring as a bad red man, we got to introduce a little chaos into all these pve'ers playthrough. And so that's exactly what's happening, is we're inducing a little chaos with a bunch of new, well, I guess not a bunch, only 2 new dragon, some new dragon communion incantations. When the rapture happens, and when the tribulation happens, and all that stuff in the end times that is depicted in the last book of the Bible, Revelations, I really want permission from God to go to that dragon before he is casted down to earth in bounding, in chains. And I want to be able to say to that dragon, "Curse you, Bayle, I hereby vow you will rue this day. Behold, a true Drake warrior, and I, Egon, your fear made flesh, solid of scale you might be, foul dragon, but I will riddle with holes your rotten hide, with the hail of harpoons, with every last drop of my being." And so if I have a moment to just have a monologue moment like that towards the dragon, which is Satan, I would be so happy. But I hardly doubt that's going to happen. Anyways, yeah, I just felt like I had to give a little bit of a depiction of the chaos that dragons can ensue, and just kind of like their thematics as an entity themselves. And I love, spoiler alert, well actually I don't care about spoilers at this point, Bayle, one of the best dragon boss fights in From Software. I think Bayle the Dread has surpassed Midir as the best dragon in FromSoft history. And the incantations, the Dragon Communion incantations that you get from Bayle are absolutely amazing. And if you have the ability to optimize it, you can get potential one-shots on players, which I love, especially with Bayle's Flame Lightning. So this is a perfect time to explain what is happening in this invasion build. But first off, I want to introduce myself. What's going on, everyone? My name is Scrub. I'm an Elden Ring invader. I started invading at the beginning of 2023, and Shadow of the Erdtree is here. So all the innocent little pve'ers and honest co-opers are out prowling the lands of Shadow. That's in between, the lands between. So I guess the Shadowlands is the lands between, I suppose. See, one shot with Bayle's Flame Lightning. And so be in mind, you can only choose from one or the other of the incantations that you get from defeating Bayle when you get his hearts. Thank goodness I'm on PC, so I can get both because of Cheat Engine. But Bayle's Tyranny is basically Grail's Roar, but just on steroids. You get this like flame lightning AoE effect that comes off of you, and is really powerful, especially if you're able to stack 2 Dragon Communion seals on top of each other. And then Bayle's Flame Lightning is kind of like it's kind of like Dragon Claw, but with kind of like a deformed, limb that's missing a claw, but can still cause a massive, or not a massive AoE, but a really powerful one. It's really hard to hit, but when you do hit it, it's worth the reward. High risk, high reward kind of incantation, because these 2 new Dragon Communion incantations can leave you hanging wide open for people to just obliterate you. So that would be a terrible time to hit one of those incantations while this guy is using Rolling Sparks with me. but it's so worth it, dude. It is so worth it. So to talk a little bit more about this build, it is a arcane build, like a arcane, a little bit of faith, a little bit of strength and dexterity, so I can wield some weapons. The main weapon at focus is the Great Katana. I am absolutely loving the Great Katana, but I'm rocking with 65 faith. Well, technically 57, but the Mimic Tier Mask does grant you an extra 8 arcane. So because of that, you have 65 arcane, and then I have 30 faith as well, just so I could add some more. The Dragon Communion, the seals, they scale off of both arcane and faith, but more primarily arcane. So I have a little bit of faith to use some other incants as well, like Black Flames Protection and Blessing's Boon for that regen. So a lot of good bleed and Dragon Communion incantations, and I'm using a lot of DLC weapons as well, like the backhand blades. Swift Slash needs to be absolutely nerfed. It is so overpowered. It's so easy just to get rid of ganks like this, and you'll see this in a little bit. So because of all the new DLC weapons, I'm really, I don't know, I'm done trying to have like an entire like arsenal of 25 plus weapons in each of my invasion builds. So might as well just keep it simple, you know? You only need like 5, 6, okay, maybe like 10 weapons for different situations when invading as a bad red man. For example, like if I needed to get rid of a wizard, a spell spamming wizard, perfect time to use Swift Slash and just fully charge it so you could cover a lot of distance. And then to get rid of, you know, Mr. Colossal Sword guy who's using a very weak repeating crossbow, you could just use the Flame Knight's Greatsword, which is also broken right now. It's got an R1 to R1 combo. An R1 to R1 combo, you say, Scrub? Yes, viewer, an R1 to R1 combo. There's no reason why that should exist in the game. And so the nice thing about the Flame Knight's Greatsword is that it has the same moveset as the Godslayer Greatsword, one of the legendary weapons in the Elden Ring base game. So I'm assuming that FromSoft is going to patch that, because there's no way you could just get 2 guaranteed R1s like that in any circumstance, especially if you bleed infuse it. It's a really powerful, I wouldn't say it's the most powerful when bleed infused, but you could still get like 160 bleed buildup. And so if you multiply that too, since you could get that guaranteed extra R1, then that's, you know, an instant like bleed right there. So yeah, so many broken things in the DLC right now, but I'm hoping that they at least keep the incantations, the Bayle incantations that I'm using at the place that it's at right now, because I feel like it's very powerful, yes, but they're also very hard to hit. And then yeah, Great Katana as well with the overhead stance. I love using it. I like putting Piercing Fang on it as well. But overhead stance is a pretty good Ash of War to use on it as well, because you can, I mean, my katana is occult infuse, so if you're able to hit the first 2 out of 3 hits, that is a guaranteed bleed right there. Sometimes the first 2 don't hit, but that third one does. But there's circumstances where a lot of people have been using shields lately. This is a good example of using overhead stance to guard break someone like that. And not only did you guard break them, you caused a lot of bleed buildup on them, which could get them potentially one shot if you don't have enough health, like this poor host right here. So Great Katana is one of my favorite weapons to use right now, and yeah, I'm excited to just abuse the heck out of it and master it. Here we are at the Chauffeur River. Even though a lot of things has changed about the game in regards to player versus player combat, one thing has stayed the same, which is spell spamming pve'ers. You know, you'd think people would actually enjoy swinging weapons for once, but people really don't for some reason. They just want to stand back and use their fun magic things. And I know that's ironic for me to say, because I'm using fun magic things as well on this build, but I mean, it's badass fun magic things. Their things aren't really that cool. Like Flame of the Fell God and then just wizardry, ain't nothing captivating about that. But since we're ensuing a little bit of chaos into our invasions, yes, we have the right to kind of do like a magic or a dragon caster bleed build hybrid guy. I forgot to tell you what level this build is at. This is at level 166. If you've seen my previous videos, this guy looks familiar to you, and that's because he is. This was my first build that I used to go into the DLC with, and it was really fun going into the DLC with this guy. And so, even though Arcane builds didn't get the most love with all the new DLC content, I definitely do think that FromSoft gifted them with quite a lot of things to add to their arsenal. I think strength and faith builds are eating really good with the DLC right now, but so is every other kind of build. So yeah, I'm excited to see what all the other, or I'm excited to try all the other things that come with the DLC. Right now, I'm gonna take a Dexterity build into the DLC next, so you're probably gonna see maybe, I don't know if I'm gonna post videos on that yet, because I don't want to just cheat engine everything in on that build, because I've only played the DLC once, so I want to be able to get that raw and authentic experience again, and then I'll probably start making videos with that. So builds, more and more builds come in slowly but surely, but for now I'm having fun invading with this guy. Invasions are just pure chaos right now, and there's so many broken things about it, like I said, so I might as well take advantage of the meta before it gets absolutely nerfed to the ground. So yeah, 166. It was originally at level 150, but I started this guy as a confessor, which I don't think is the most optimal starting class for like an arcane faith bleed hybrid caster guy. So I brought it up to 166. That way I can still invade down to 150, which is a very popular level to be at, especially going into the DLC. I find it so funny that people think that Scatter Tree Fragments and the Spirit Ash Blessings are just completely useless, when in fact it really does determine your level of easiness, I suppose, when going into the DLC. So, yeah, even at NG plus 7, you could be max level, you can still potentially get one shot by things. So level up your Scattered Tree Fragments, and don't neglect those, otherwise you will be a silly goose. And if you're a silly goose, I will find you and hunt you, because I am the silly goose police. I'm the bad red man silly goose police. Here's more Bayle's Flame Lightning action. Bam. One shot. 1792 damage right off the bat, especially if you're stacking 2 Dragon Communion Seals. For my talismans, I'm rocking with the Phlox Canvas Talisman. And then I'll either switch, or I'll use that, and then if I don't have FP to like spam incantations, I'll use the Two-Handed Sword Talisman, which works on the Great Katana. And then my second slot, I have the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, which is necessary, and then I have the Shard of Alexander, then the Erdtree's Favor +2 for that health, stamina, and equip load boost. So that's my talismans. One thing I want to give light to is that thing that I just ate there. They're called Sacred Bloody Flesh. What they do, they give you, see, one shot right there with Bayle's Roar. How amazing is that? Excuse me, I need to drink some water right now. If you have water next to you, you should drink some water with me. That way we can stay hydrated together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. That's some good water. But the thing that I ate, and the thing that you see in my pouch on the bottom slot, it's called a Sacred Bloody Flesh. And so it gives you a temporary physical attack boost, and it boosts your Arcane once. You can eat them multiple times. The buff lasts 30 seconds, but you can only buff your Arcane once. And it gives you 10 extra points in Arcane. So imagine, like, I have 65 Arcane, so eating that, and then going into this incantation right here with 75 Arcane, that is just absolutely diabolical. Like, I almost just one-shotted that guy. If I had that 10 extra Arcane, I probably would have one-shotted that guy. So, it's necessary for Arcane builds to have the Sacred Bloody Flesh. So it gives you, oh yeah, one more thing about it as well is, if you get a Blood Loss proc, it boosts your attack power even more. So you can stack that with the Lord of Blood's Exaltation. So I was in the arena, earlier today, and I was testing to see what the AR would be with the Lord of Blood's Exaltation and the Sacred Bloody Flesh activated in it. And with the Great Katana occult infused, I was getting up to 1014 damage with both of those attack boosts, which is insane. And not only that, that 10 extra Arcane can boost the scaling of your weapons as well. Not by a lot, because I feel like the 80 is like the hard cap, but going from 65 to 75 isn't necessarily the biggest of a boost in your weapon scaling in regards to its attack. Sure, maybe with its bleed loss or bleed buildup, I'm not quite sure, but it is what it is. So, yeah, Sacred Bloody Flesh, it's interesting to see how they added that in to make bleed builds a little bit more powerful, I suppose. I don't know if it'd be considered OP to stack things on top of that, because I could also use like Vari's White Mask as well and get is that another like 5% attack boost? I think it's 5%, but either way, it's just like bleed builds are now sitting comfortably on my list of like favorite builds. I've always loved bleed builds, but there are other builds that I just really want to try when it comes to playing the DLC and playing invasions and going into the Colosseum as well. Like the catalyst that you get from defeating Metter, the Mother of Fingers, it's an int and faith scaling catalyst, and it can cast both sorceries and incantations. So you don't need to be using like the Prince of Death staff and then the Golden Order seal to be like an int faith caster kind of guy. You just need one catalyst, which is crazy. So I'm really anticipated to use something like that, but only one thing at a time. So I don't know, it's so exciting to see all the new things that come from the DLC in regards to weaponry, in regards to magic, armor, lore. It's amazing. So the game feels refreshed right now, and I'm very grateful that it's refreshed and the community is alive again. But one thing you still got to look out for is Trader Reds. I do not look like the color gold. I'm not a sunbro, and curse that red. Well, not really. I got to be careful with words like that. There is power of life and death in your tongue, and so you really got to be careful what you put curses upon. So I'm sorry I was mean to you, Trader Red, but still, that was not nice of you. I had that invasion in the bag. So yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys liked the video. Here are the stats on the left. 65 Arcane, 30 Faith, 22 Strength, 18 Dex, 60 Vigor, 19 Mind, 30 Endurance. Yes, and then here's my Talisman assortment. I need to work on that a little bit, but you know, I'm so excited to just be chaotic as a Dragon Caster bleed build kind of guy, and it's fun. So expect more invasion videos soon. Like and subscribe. Have fun doing whatever you're going to do after you're done watching this video, and be good to yourselves. All right, go have some fun.